Okay.
The bulb went out.
Let's get
Yeah,
in
yeah,
No one ever
yeah.
replaced it.
So
Exactly.
I don't know if you guys have been following the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, but this judge wants to be famous in the worst fucking way possible. He has done things. Well, today he let Kyle pick the names of the jurors who would
Yes.
not deliberate. He did like a bingo thing, and Kyle got to pick the names out and put the names out to pick who was going to judge him today, or while they're in deliberations. He threw out lesser charges because in Wisconsin, you can't be underage and have a short barrel gun. So technically, he didn't possess a deadly weapon because it was a full barrel gun. So he threw that charge out, even though it would have been easy to convict him on that. He's been yelling at the prosecution, but not the defense. He had a ringtone of "God Bless the USA," I'm proud to be an American, which is the Trump theme song that went off in court because, yes, you should, as a judge, have your ringtone on. He made some anti-Asian joke about Chinese food coming.
He said, hopefully the Asian food is not on one of those boats on Long Beach Harbor.
Which has just left people scratching their heads.
Because stuff is the supply chain is being affected by all of
Yeah, it is, but it's like, does that really have a place in the courtroom?
Like, why do we need to hear this?
He, again, going back to like the whole like loaded wording about things.
Yeah.
He would not let he will allow the political affiliations and expressions of those who are protesting that night to be admitted into court, but he will not allow the political affiliations and postings of people who are on the right to be admissible into the hearing. He said it's not relevant to say that they were sympathetic with the Klan or the Proud Boys or Trump or anyone, but he will try to paint the picture that someone is an Antifa terrorist or something like that. He doesn't understand what it is to zoom in and enhance a photograph.
Okay, let me get into that one. Okay,
Yeah.
For you Android users, do you know about the whole pinch to zoom thing?
Oh, they can do that on Android.
We still got that.
Yeah.
Got that.
That's all pictures
They're
that
not
are
in the,
untouched.
you know,
It's
zoning.
No. So
Apple
like,
exclusive.
I will say it's probably better on the Android because they usually have better resolution for photos. I will say that.
so
bookmark that.
Yes, you may.
Please do.
okay, so the defense argued
loop,
that
please.
iPads, which are made by Apple, have artificial intelligence in them that allow things to be viewed through 3 dimensions and logarithms. The defense said as part of its objection, adding that the iPad uses artificial intelligence or their logarithms to create what they believe is happening. So this isn't actually enhanced video. This is Apple iPad's programming creating what they think is there, not what is necessarily there.
Which honestly, when I heard that, I was like, that's fucking brilliant because they're taking advantage of an old man who doesn't understand computers.
Right.
Ignorance. It's a brilliant, albeit completely full of shit argument.
So now he had them spend 20 minutes explaining why zooming on a video with an iPad doesn't alter or manipulate the footage in any way.
Which was after 20
Yeah,
minutes
because I'd
of
be
him
like, okay,
explaining.
then let's just use a fucking Android.
It
What?
didn't matter. He would argue the
didn't
same thing.
matter.
But it was after he explained how he doesn't know how to save text messages, the judge said. So he takes screenshots. And then he'll take full screenshots of conversations. So it's like, you know, when like it takes a long thing and it's like super, super small. He's like, and when I zoom on it, it's blurry. So I think these pictures will be blurry. And so we shouldn't be using them. But that's the short version of like a 10-minute story he told in the middle of the
Yeah,
trial.
because if it that would be true if the picture was blurry. Yeah, okay, I got you.
And
If it's not blurry, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
it's just
But
not the
gets
same
blurrier
thing.
the more you zoom into
If it's
it.
a low resolution,
Yeah, but if it's
you're
like
gonna get
blurry
shit.
to the point that you cannot identify what is
Yeah,
going
Sure,
on.
but it's two completely different things. It's like taking a screen grab of like something on your phone and then lab expert gone through a million filters and resolution to get the highest quality image you
Yeah.
can have. Completely different. And then, of course, the best part is during the crocodile tears acting really like. Remember Tropic Thunder?
Yeah.
Remember Tropic Thunder when Ben Stiller was trying to cry so hard, but the tears wouldn't come. When Kyle did that on cue, Meanwhile, the night he shot people, he went straight to the bar and bragged about it and got drunk and smoked cigarettes and got high and all that stuff. He wasn't going through any trauma of the people who were chasing him that night. But that understanding he was going through all this trauma with his crocodile tears, the judge stopped the trial so he could compose himself, which some people say that might have hurt the trial, but more likely people are saying that probably paints the picture to the jury of a sympathetic witness, the defendant who is who feared for his life. So people are saying he's like auditioning
I
for
don't
like a
know.
Fox News position, or I think he's, I
think it was a little over the top for me how he was behaving. Did you guys get a chance to look at that portion of it?
No, but I'm glad I didn't, because even just speaking of this right now, it really infuriates me. Honestly,
I mean, it's
it's infuriating how we may know some facts, right, that show that he was in his right mind. He premeditated his actions. And then at the same time, we're gonna go through what we know is a judge that doesn't take this unbiasedly.
I mean,
Um, so
Kyle's
I mean,
Kyle's defense is that he showed up with his first aid kit. He was asked to be there by businesses to defend the businesses and to render aid to people. However, he didn't render aid to people, and medics in war, in literal war, and I've seen a bunch of comments from people who are in the military. In war, the medics don't go in there with
I was
automated
gonna say,
rifles.
Yeah.
I was
They
gonna
go.
say the
They
rifle
put,
part
yeah.
is if go in with the medic stuff. Yeah, I
And
get it.
his
But
argument is that everyone, he was fearing for his life because other people who were unarmed were chasing him, and so he was afraid. But why were they chasing him? Because he's pointing automatic rifles.
and
at
that wouldn't have
people.
happened until after he got out of the car when he brought the gun. So he was worried before he did all that. Then he should have said, anybody else who would have gone to prison for this would have said, no, I cannot do that because I'm in fear for my safety. Right?
I mean,
But instead he said, let me bring my medic stuff and a shotgun.
Are we ignoring the fact that it's a peaceful protest and where people won't beat up?
Were there no riots in this actual
no, there
situation?
were. I mean, there
itself?
were people who were
Oh, 'cause
lighting
I thought
dumpsters on
that was
fire. No, there were people
I think
who were
everybody's
taking
wrong in this
advantage of it.
situation.
People were taking advantage of it. There always are
There's
those.
always someone taking
But
But I don't
advantage
care.
of
I don't care who's writing you. We don't
It's the
have
crowd
vigilantes that
mentality.
way. That is literally the job of the police. If we start taking it upon ourselves to take our guns and start shooting people who we find as victims that are not on our property, then there's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, he was on the public street and he brought an AR-15, an automated rifle, to patrol the streets on his own. He doesn't have certification. He doesn't have a license. He's not on someone's private property being asked to defend it with that gun and staying put on that person's private property as independent security with a license to kill. He's
He doesn't have
around.
any. He doesn't have any occupation to do that. Even a security guard wouldn't be able to do something like that.
Yeah, and so they're saying like a skateboard
The most
is
they
a
can do is
deadly
tase
weapon.
you.
They're saying that after the skirmish, so to speak, happened, him being hit with a skateboard, now that's a deadly weapon. He has a right to fear for his life, even though he was already pointed the gun at people. But that's defense, and they're trying to take the gun away from him, and they use the skateboard to knock him. That he has every right to defend himself doing that, forgetting the fact that then if that he has that right, doesn't the other people who were there having
Who
an
saw the gun
AR-15
have the
pointed
right to
at
defend
him
himself.
have the right to do the exact same thing? Like, why? I mean, that's of course a court trial where one side is painting a picture, one side is painting a picture, whatever. I know I glitched out, but
I can understand being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Didn't-
I get it, but he looked for it. He went there for it. He knew what was down there.
Bless
He
you.
said, I'm going to bring help and I'm going to make sure that I bring a gun, even though there's in none of his job description is he supposed to do something
Yeah.
like that.
and he had posted and said to numerous people that he hoped that he said that he had been there the night before with his AR-15, he would have definitely shot some people. He had intention to go there. He had desire and wish to go there. None of that will the judge allow to be admissible into the trial. nor is the jury sequestered, but he's telling them, don't watch the news, don't look at social media. But you're not sequestering them in a murder case,
Same
in a
thing
double
happened in
homicide
Chauvinov's
case.
case.
Yeah,
They didn't
Shouldn't-
get sequestered. They told
No.
them the same thing.
yeah, which is like, I don't know.
I mean, I think that they can. I think the jury can do their job without having to be sequestered.
they can do it, but
It's
I don't
hard.
trust
It's so
motherfuckers.
hard.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
it creates a
it is,
bias.
but
I
you
mean,
can't.
I mean, you know,
I
the
don't
media
think
comes
that you
out
can-
depending on
before
the
trial even
depending on the
starts.
media outlets that you are ingesting,
Mhm.
you know,
But I
or
feel like
you're reading and
we're
stuff like
using that
that.
as an excuse. If they're really ingesting the right kind of media outlets, they've already made.
Yeah, they've already made a decision.
Already made the
This was
decision.
highly publicized before the trial
Yeah.
as well too.
Yeah.
So trying to say like, oh, let's sequester them now, like
I mean, there
Yeah, it's
are
kinda
definitely
pointless.
people who don't pay attention to any of this stuff. Like, I mean, there are definitely people who, even right now, don't know the name Kyle Rittenhouse because they literally don't pay attention. Yeah, people don't watch the news.
2 weeks ago, my brother told me about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known.
There you go. So it's like there are definitely you can get those objective people, but then not having them. I mean, I would never want to be sequestered because like I don't want to give up my freedom like that. But like, I also would not allow myself to be on a jury like this. I'd be like, honest, I'm just too prejudiced. I'm not going to listen to the facts.
That's
on this.
racist.
That's
have you ever
racist.
been on a jury?
Yeah. It was
Oh,
the
you
most
have?
boring. It was the worst, boringest civil case of all time, and we end up not ruling on it.
Ooh.
Because it was so you know how it takes 7-8 years for it to get there. Neither person involved, when they're on the witness stand, remembered the facts of it. They're like, oh, I don't remember. It was so long ago. Oh, I don't remember. It was so long ago. One lawyer was experienced. One was not. He was getting the floor wiped with him, and the judge kept reminding us not to fall asleep, or else we'd be held in contempt of court. So we're all fighting our fatigue, and eventually, I think the lawyers heard how stupid both people involved sounded, and they settled. And the judge calls back and like, you don't got to rule. You can go home.
What a waste.
That sounds like a civil case.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
Stupid. It was horrible.
Right.
It wasn't horrible, but it was so stupid. But it's just it's become
That's why we need civil cases.
the
Why
best.
you need,
But also the
Jury
defense
trials.
the defendant's lawyer, the defense wants to be Johnny Cochran because now he's come up with rhymes in the courtroom, and I forget what it was, but he started doing like rhyming of different things in the case to try to like be punchy and they can remember it and recite it in the deliberation. I'm like, you're
I mean,
not
it's
Johnny
all
Cochran.
tactics. It's all about a tactic.
Yeah.
Like trying to be the
Remember the razzle dazzle.
Razzle Dazz.
Dazzle. But I was hoping we would have a verdict by the end of today. We did not, so as we always say, not that anyone's watching, we record on Tuesdays, so very likely by the time this is posted, there's a verdict. So moot point at this point, probably by the time you're watching this, but we'll see. The
Well, you
National
guys
Guard.
were- Sorry to cut you off, Shane. Go
No,
ahead.
you're good. No, National Guard's on standby.
Oh
and,
yeah.
for the peaceful protesting.
Just in case some people are a little.
Well,
I
I
mean,
mean, if you
when a-
allow one vigilante, I say
I didn't get
hey,
my way.
Where's the line drawn?
hey.
Okay, so
Yeah.
somebody can go
Yeah.
there fearing for their life with a gun and shoot who they want.
As long as you're a
Let's see if
licensed
it goes the same way.
weapon holder, you can walk around in public with a gun.
You can walk around public, but he was not. And there are also laws
He should be
about crossing state lines with
absolutely
it.
fined for anything involving carrying it illegally and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Crossing state lines with a firearm, things like that. Blah blah blah.
But he
And-
was
He has no
he was a minor
He
at
has
that
no
time.
license.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was a minor.
Yeah.
And
He's what, 17?
he was
No,
17. Now he's
now he's
17. He's
18.
18 now.
And it's a lot of hypocrisy with the laws. I mean, it's just you can go to Florida and have the whole right to defend yourself, stand my ground laws, but it only seems to work for certain people of the population. You know, if Florida State loses their fucking football championship, you can have a bunch of white college kids destroying the entire town. They go, oh, they're just blowing off steam. But the second someone marches to fight for liberty and freedom, and yeah, people burn some things, then it's a riot, then it's a problem.
Right.
Then it's like, oh, they have a right to shoot these kids. It's no one should be shooting anyone. No one should be attacking anyone. And We've
And no
all
one should be
seen on the
burning
news.
down things.
No one should be
I don't
burning
get
down
it.
things.
Yeah, your team wins and you burn shit down.
Yeah.
Makes no fucking
That
sense.
I never understood.
That
Like,
makes
no
why are you
sense.
so excited or not excited or whatever it may be?
But the point is that the hypocrisy of the slap on the wrist for those things as opposed to other things that you might be doing it for. And the fact is there shouldn't be violence involved in fucking anything. You shouldn't be showing up to a protest with anything that you can cause harm with at all.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about it in a sociological standpoint, this is what happens when when a group of people don't feel like they're being listened to by their government. This
Agreed.
is like something that's happened throughout history.
Agreed.
So when we act like we don't know why it happens, we know why it happens. No one just
Yeah.
wants to say why it's happening.
Yeah.
People are tired of the injustice that some people tend to get a lot more lenient and a lot more freedoms than others do. And if you expect someone to just sit there and always take it without getting upset, then I don't know what you would expect to really happen.
And
You
I-
can get upset, just don't get violent.
Yeah.
Well, when you're talking
But
about
it's the
talking about
it's the
people that have been
mentality.
oppressed for like 400 years,
Yeah.
if they want to get upset and burn down something, can I really get angry? Am I the one to judge them for that? Do I know how
I
it
mean, if
feels
they
to
burn
be in
down
that
your
situation?
shit, I would hope you would get upset and not
Oh,
be like,
listen,
you
I
were oppressed for
wouldn't.
400 years, even though you've only been alive for.
I would if it was my shit.
I wouldn't because you know what? If I was in the wrong place at the
You
wrong
wouldn't be-
time, it doesn't make them a wrong person for being so angry to do those kind of
Sure,
things.
it
That's
does.
natural.
Absolutely
No, it
does make
doesn't.
them. Yeah, it does. I'm so mad at
When
my
you-
wife that I hit her. Oh, it's not my fault. Yes, it is.
That's
It's
diff-
completely
that's
my
different.
fault.
That's
It's
different.
Completely
Okay,
my fault.
so
If I've
That's
been
different.
abused my whole
That's
life and then
different.
I'm abusing other people, it's a cycle, right? When
Yeah,
you're
but
abused
to,
as a
to
child
say that
and then
to
usually
say that it's
abused
not
as an
acceptable
adult,
for you to do that because it's not supposed to happen, even though you were abused, that is wrong.
absolutely you shouldn't accept the fact if I
It
did
will
that.
happen. It will happen regardless. What we need to do as people is handle it as the truth that it is and make sure that there are equality and
Sure,
fairness.
I'll agree with that.
You know,
Yeah, I
so
agree with that.
to expect people to just take it, and then never
Oh, that's
have
not
a
what we're
moment
saying.
of standing
no,
up
no.
No,
and
that's
doing
not-
something about it, then that's unnatural.
I mean, Tati, I'm kind of with you, but I
Until you
because-
break the
I'm not,
law.
I'm not saying that.
That's how I am.
I'm not saying that I agree with anybody's actions
I
to do
got
something
you.
violent, but I'm not going to say that, oh, I don't understand why it happens. I understand why it happens. I understood why it happened that time too. And I understand a lot of the times that it happens. And in most cases, people have studied this and said that it's when a large group of people are not being listened to by the people that are supposed to be taking care of them.
violence
There's
is
a
language of the
problem.
unheard, right?
And
That
we
is
have
a problem.
we have
Because
holidays
the
off.
other sources of the other outlets that we have as Americans that are going to be listened to, other people don't have. So when they burn something, that is because they want to be listened to. And if somebody burns something because they want it to be listened to, because they're not being listened to for that long, then how can I be angry at them?
Okay, so I
How
have
can
one
any of
question
us?
for you. They burned down your car that you
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
spent money
It's
on.
your own
Wait,
shit.
wait, that you spent money on, that you worked your ass off for, that you
Will
went
I be
through.
pissed? Will I be pissed? Yes. Will I be like that they're all wrong because that happened because they're upset about not getting the justice and respect they're supposed to have? No. I'll be
Okay.
pissed that I lost my car,
That-
but I will continue getting my
that's all I'm
car
asking.
and I will still be able to do a lot of other things that
That's not the
they
way a
might not be able
society
to
can
do.
last.
Well-
Society cannot last with that, like that.
Well,
If
let me
everybody
let me,
By understanding each other, I think
Destroying
the
things.
society can get stronger if we understand.
No,
each other.
understanding,
Understanding
yes,
each other,
yes,
yes,
yes.
but
Yeah.
destroying, going to the
Well-
point where you have to destroy things.
let me
But
interject here.
it's gotten to that point because they have no other way to voice their like justice,
They
their
think
truth.
that they have no other way of doing it.
Well, let me interject. Let me put it like this. When people, I agree with you 100%, and it's true. When people feel like they're not being listened to, they will react, and not always in a peaceful way. Because why should they when they have not
Get
been
louder.
treated peacefully? That being said, True change only happens when there is the threat of violence. No one would have listened to Martin Luther King had there not been the threat of the Black Panthers. No one would have listened to Gandhi had there not been the threat. And I've said this before on this podcast, and I always forget the name of that group. There has to be
Women's rights wouldn't even get an abortion
Yes,
if they weren't
women's
killing
suffrage.
themselves by getting the abortions in back alley clinics.
and burning factories and sabotaging things and hurting people. There's always has to be that threat because at some point you have exhausted peaceful protest, and we are at that point in society. That being said, in order to succeed in that voice, in that fight, in that rebellion, it has to be done intelligently. To harm your own community, to harm the property of people who agree with you and who are allies or are going through with you, only makes you look ignorant and stupid. And unfortunately, it's not the people who are organizing BLM. It's not the people who are organizing what Antifa actually is. Not that anyone cares to educate themselves on what it actually is.
But again, you're running into the line of telling people how to react about something that they feel is like very against them.
No, I'm saying if
I
you're
cannot say what is right for
go,
someone else to act. I would choose to act in peace and to act in understanding.
But I'm
the
saying
reality is that people
ire,
have always. Did anybody do anything when white people went into black neighborhoods after they were establishing themselves and burning down their towns?
No. I agree with you.
Because it
I'm
was
saying
okay for those things to happen.
Agree.
You have to understand that these are things that happen that have consequence.
But things happen.
And just because you're not going to act like I'm going to act doesn't mean you're wrong.
And there's always
in your feelings and in your behavior. You're allowed to be angry. And if you act differently than I do, I just have to understand that you're in a different place than I am.
And
Instead of blaming you or telling you what I think you should do in order to intelligently act upset about something.
But take that, I say organization is how you have change. When it's a bunch of people, we praise in this country people who think that, they shouldn't be protesting, or they shouldn't be violent about this. We celebrate the founding fathers who were in open rebellion, insurrection because they were getting taxed without representation. They started killing British citizens, soldiers, this and the other thing. Nowadays, we would call that treason and insurrection, but they're celebrated in this country. What's the difference? There is a big difference because the kind of wrongs and atrocities that were being done to colonial Americans are way less than what colonial Americans and Americans became in doing to minorities. That being said, they got their shit together to have the revolution by organizing. And so it took people lashing out, trials, the king getting involved, people being executed, people being tarred and feathered, and they finally got together, got a militia, got their shit together, and fought the power in an organized. They said, let's stop turning on each other, and we turn on the people that are oppressing us. So if you, and people are going to disagree with this in this podcast, but I understand that want to take a police station or take a police car of people who are protecting those who are murdering others or who have the blue wall of silence, and if no one's inside of it, you burn that cop car down, I'm fucking with it. Do I think that I should go down the street and say Darius has a business and I should burn down his business just because it's there? That I think defeats the purpose. When you turn against your own community or those who are allies with you in this fight, or even those who sympathize with you but don't fully get it.
It all depends on what your purpose is. To be listened to have that purpose, they were listened to. Now, and at the same time, during those moments that when those things were going on, we saw white men going to Michigan's capital and threaten to behead their governor, and no one went to jail, let alone died at the hands of the cops that were there.
Yep, exactly. And had it been anybody else of other race,
I'm just saying,
they would have been shot on sight.
This isn't as simple as saying because I was abused, I will abuse another, even though that is a very natural thing that happens, and that's why counselors and therapists and psychologists are really needed, because you try to have to break that cycle. And you have to acknowledge that those things happen regardless of how we believe they should be or what we agree with or don't agree with, and that's why I think the same way it goes with anybody who's protesting or rioting. If it's something that we can really put facts behind and see that these people, that a group of people of any kind, whether it had been Stonewall riots or the Stonewall protests, in which they were throwing bottles and Molotov cocktails and stuff like that on the streets, from what I remembered. They were
But
doing
at-
a lot.
But at who?
What?
Who was it directed towards?
They were just throwing it at the cars, the cop cars.
Because the cops are the ones that were pulling them out, beating the shit out of them, shutting their shit down, raping them, hurting them, covering up their bodies.
They were doing that at the time that those things were going on.
Yeah.
The cops were actively doing it while they were protesting.
And
which
before
is
that,
why
it led up to
they
it.
did that.
Yeah, and it led up to
You
that.
know?
And it was years
Because
of that,
I
and
think
they
it
turned
was.
it back
I don't
around.
think it was. I don't know if it was a clean riot.
Mm-hmm.
There might have been people that have gotten hurt by accident.
Oh, I'm
there
sure.
might have been a business or residents that might have gotten hurt. Does that make them more wrong? No.
But if it's accidental as opposed to intentionally or ignorantly going against someone in your own community and destroying their livelihood, with the
Again, I'm not at a place to judge someone for
I understand
acting
that.
out.
Shane wants them to go to another neighborhood and destroy that. It's still
No,
fucked
no,
up.
no. I
still
don't.
fucked
I
up.
don't know. You don't go to someone
I
who
don't
you
know.
don't know his house and business, and you don't know where they stand on stuff and destroy it. If you want to go against the oppressive force, I'm all for it, because we can't stand here and celebrate President's Day without saying that we don't still have the right to do it in our community, or we're
But
hypocrites.
keep in mind that
that
we're
was
also
so
a
many
very
years ago, and
populated.
things are so
We're
different.
very
But
populated
it's
state. So you saying that, don't do that to my neighborhood because I won't do it to my own neighborhood. That doesn't mean it's the person next to me's neighborhood.
I'm
doesn't
not
mean-
saying you do it to anyone who isn't.
I'm just
A
saying,
symbol
like,
of the
so
oppressive
when
force.
I get that, and believe me, I do get you don't want to hurt your own community, because then you got to pick up the pieces afterwards.
You don't
right?
shit in your own backyard,
I
my mom
agree
always said.
that is something that's counterproductive. But
Bite the hand that feeds you.
if
And
we
then-
don't throw a brick at a glass in a business in our own neighborhood, the next person does, because it's not their neighborhood.
Well, I think,
So
and again, that's where your disorganization comes from, I think, and also then what the media does, and what really hurts any kind of movement we've ever had in this country, is
Well,
that they
I
will
mean,
take
it was because they were
those
doing
people. It'll take those people who are, because the majority on all sides are peaceful. Even the majority of people who are supporting Kyle Rittenhouse, who support, overturn the election and all that stuff, the majority, not January 6th, that's a separate incident, but the majority of people are just screaming across picket lines, so to speak, across to the other side. There are those people that are going to be the ones who hurt and destroy, and that's what the press is going to. And the press is going to, Fox is going to decide and say, oh, these horrible black people. And CNN's going to say, oh, these horrible everyone. And then MSNBC is going to say, oh, these horrible white people. And you take those, and that's what's really, really hurting progress with so many things, is when they do focus in, like, say, Occupy Wall Street. They focus on the dirty hippies who were smoking pot and sounded like morons, when the people who actually led that thing were educated people who understood that we needed economic reform, so that the 99%, but the message was lost. No one sympathized with them. And what did Bloomberg do? Yeah, it was Bloomberg at the time,
Yeah.
so right? He just said, oh, we're doing renovations to the park, bulldozed them all out, and no one gave a fuck, even though they had a legitimate protest, because it affects our lives. Because the bad seeds or the dumb seeds are honed in on by the press, and without organization. And Occupy Wall Street was an organization, I believe, that did not have. I dated someone who helped at the time, who was organizing it. They said, we can't have figureheads because that's what the establishment has. We need to be a group. And I disagree with that, because I'm like, without figureheads, without spokespersons, your actual message won't get across, because they're going to go to the dirty high hippie who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they lost momentum as a result. So for me, I'm just arguing organization and intelligence behind things. I understand. I think I understand. I try to understand where you're coming from, Tater, and saying that, like, you cannot dictate emotion and reaction, and I agree with that.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly what I'm saying.
So I have one
think both.
question. One more question.
Yeah.
So with like the BLM movement, one of the things that we saw were them kicking in grocery stores and stealing groceries. We also saw them kicking in like Verizon stores and shoe stores and taking merchandise.
Yeah,
So where do you stand on that?
totally okay with that.
But I think that's, I mean, you also have the,
Don't give a fuck.
you have
If people don't
the
give a fuck about you, to
and-
expect
You
them
still
to
have
give
to
a
abide by
fuck.
the laws.
Yeah,
You still have to
But
be
the-
civil.
When
If
they
we
feel
were
like the
all-
laws only apply to certain people, then why follow them at all?
I feel
So
like
where do
those
we
type
draw
of
the
people
line?
are not there
Where do we
for
draw
the
the line?
movement.
Am
By
I allowed
making
to
sure
protest?
that
Exactly.
everyone that
So-
does
so-
that
so-
does a
Tati,
freaking
Shane-
crime
Tati,
goes to jail.
Shane and I got bullied in junior high. Bullied. Should we protest and violently visit all of those people that bullied us
If you want,
and
if you
destroy their
did that,
property
if-
because we
if you
were
did-
oppressed as in junior
if you
high?
did that, then I mean, I
No.
wouldn't judge you for it. You were
Hold on,
bullied.
I think,
Darius.
but I
Would-
think what
I'd
Now,
be
would
like,
I
that guy's
think that
fucking
you're? Would I
crazy.
think that you're? Would I think that you're sane because you did it?
No.
No, but you obviously got messed up from being bullied.
Yeah, I mean,
So
whatever.
am I
Saying
going to
they're
be mad
not
at you
saying.
because? Am I going to be mad at you because you were so affected by being bullied that you did that? No, that's a consequence. That's called reality. That's
But-
what happens when you fuck with people.
Darius.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's why that's why kids are now going fucking. They take
The
the bully and
same
they
way
end up
with
shooting 'em.
anybody who gets
End up
fucked
shooting
with
up a
by
school because-
anything,
yeah.
whether it be our justice system, our legal system, or our politics, all of it. If you're getting fucked with, how long are you going to take it before you decide
Yeah.
that you're going to do something?
Correct. Someone could only take
And,
it for
and,
so
and,
long.
like I said,
and then they either
we
gonna
would
harm
talk
somebody
about it. We would
or harm
we
themselves.
would all talk about it here. I have a belief that we would all be willing to talk about it, but not everyone can. Not everyone is willing to. And like I said, I can't judge them for being that upset about it, because again, this is also something outside of my jurisdiction. I can't judge them for things I have not experienced. So if they're saying as a collective that they are pissed to be dealing with injustice like thrown in their face, that even I can see, and I'm not living their experience, but I can
But
see
you
it.
can empathize some other things you've experienced. I think.
Well,
yeah. I'm
exactly.
Sure. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I am still a minority,
Yeah.
so it's never been that clear cut. But there's a very different life experience that I would go through versus,
Yeah.
typical American black male,
Would you agree though that it would be better if there was organization and a focus on fighting the actual oppressive power? Do you think it would better serve?
No, because it would be corrupted anyways, like most of the shit is.
Okay.
This is why I believe things like this are going on. I mean, keep on ignoring the voice of a group of people and they will do something to be heard or to be listened to. So, it's the job of the government to know how to pick and choose which ones they would attend when they can in bringing everybody up to par, right?
Well, who would you say are the top names you can think of for the greatest civil rights leaders who got shit done?
Well, I mean, just the ones that I know, and that's just because the history books told me about them.
But you know them because they were organized and they focused their efforts on organizing and fighting the actual.
I don't know whether or not that's true.
Okay,
that's not
fair.
a fact that I know
Okay,
is
okay.
true or not.
That's fair.
I
That's
know
fair.
that they're just known. There is probably others that I still don't know that have done just as much work, if not more, than the ones that have been named.
I would completely agree to that. Yeah, I would completely agree to that.
Hold on, Darius, you had a point, and you never got to say your point.
No, because everybody's,
Sorry, Darius.
emotions
Sorry.
are flying.
I was like,
so
let
high.
Darius speak.
No.
He has the one word.
It is okay. And Tati said it before, the typical black male, I think what Ashley is referencing, like Tati, I do agree with you. There's going to become a point where people are so angry that they just seek to destroy. But then in the midst of that, let's not act like everyone that is out there because they're so angry. People are out there because some people, I won't say a lot, but some people are opportunists, right? Some people see the opportunity. Okay, they're destroying all this stuff, so let me go in here and destroy this, break the window to this Best Buy and steal everything out the Best Buy, break the window out this grocery
Can I
store,
ask you this?
steal
If
everything
they
out
were
the
giving
grocery
the
store.
same chances that me or you or Shane or Balls or
Well,
Ashley
they
were given,
are given the same chances as me.
but are they
not
more
trying to be
likely or
this
less
way.
likely to take advantage of things when they know they got an opportunity to get something for free? I know I'm not. I'm not going to get in trouble there. I'm not going to get caught by the police going out there trying to get that shit. Granted, now if a bitch is in the area, but I'm saying, like, I'm not going to go and risk myself,
hell no.
and this is just criminology,
But wait, we're also
basic criminology.
we also have to go back to the riot mentality. When people are in a group of people, their collective mindset does change in that moment.
Well, that's true. That's
So you
definitely
might be saying that now, but you're there, you're in the moment, and you just do it, and it happens.
Oh, you mean as far as like stealing and taking the opportunity because it's happening and just taking stuff?
Yeah.
Just being like, oh yeah, they're doing it, so let me go in that
Darius, so
store and
you
get
just heard her. She gave me the right of way. So if you see me with something, say nothing, and I'll just speak to you on Tuesday.
Look, I'm not gonna.
Don't be a snitch. Snitches get stitches.
I love how we get up when we talk about the riots. Like it always comes back to the people that end up looting, or and everything like that, and then the message gets
cute.
distorted, and it really gets lost. Because
Well,
of
it's
all
the
this
same way that Shane said with the dirty hippies. I love my hippies, so please, I am not calling you dirty hippies.
I got a Woodstock poster up there, so.
You know, I love trees of all shapes and sizes.
My mother was a dirty hippie.
I was about to say that, Shane.
My mother was such a dirty hippie. She had sex with 3 guys in the mud at Woodstock. So, possibly more. She was so high she didn't remember verbatim.
What?
Yeah, my
What are we
mother was a
talking
hippie.
about here?
Why do you think my name is spelled so fucked up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Not
fancy.
A&E.
It's fancy.
It's
E-Y-N-E.
As Benoit.
Benoit, bitch. Anyway. Are we good to move on, or we have so more? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut anybody off.
No, I still cut off Darius because I was trying to say how you were saying how the message gets a little muddied when people do this because they'll focus on the people who are rioting rather than everybody else who's actually doing what, has the cause in mind.
We were going back to the looters every single time.
But I do think, to Shane's point, I do think that there has to be some sort of organization. Now, there are going to be moments, there are going to be, times in any sort of revolution, which is really what we need. But anyway,
well, that's
in any revolution where you're going to have people that do get violent, but you still have to have some sort of goal and point, because at least for me, I think that we should go out, we should protest, we should do all this stuff, but to what end? Like for me, especially starting with Trayvon and all throughout these years, it's always been for me, well, what's next? What do we want? What are we doing this to? What end? And that's the question I ask every time, and I rarely get answers, and it's starting to piss me off, really, to be honest with you. It's just like, to what end are we doing this?
Yeah.
I think most of us have seen the video. This Black woman is just going through all the years of oppression that Black people have faced, and she says at the end of the video, you better be lucky that all Black people want is equality. I'm not saying it right.
And
instead of revenge.
Yeah, and not
revenge.
Yeah.
And she's so right, because we could want revenge, and if we did, be some hell to pay. But all we want is equality. But I need us to get organized, and I feel like we've been saying this as Black people to one another for years. Like, let's get organized. Let's get organized. Let's get organized. And I mean, we still haven't. BLM. Not everybody's going behind BLM, and it's really because we're not a monolith, and that's why this happens. But I'm to the point where I'm just like, for what purpose are we doing this? Like, what do we want? What do we want? Sorry, that's just. I'm sorry.
No, it totally makes sense. And I'm hoping that after the riots that does come. Because I think now that people are paying attention more, there can be more movement, and people who actually know how to make a movement, jumping in on those kind of things. But I guess we'll see.
I don't know.
I'm gonna say this last thing, then I'll go back to my quiet self.
All the words.
If
I said enough.
Depending on the verdict of this Ahmaud Arbery trial, I need you guys. I'm going to hold you to it as well. Please check on me, depending upon this verdict.
Of course,
because this one, and it's not that anything. I think Ahmaud Arbery numbed me so much that when George Floyd happened, I didn't feel it like the rest of the country because I was still
Still stuck on that
so
one.
grieved Ahmad.
That
Um,
I thought
so
George was
I'm really,
first.
honing in on this case. And no, Ahmad
Ahmad
was
was
first.
first. Was it like 4 days apart or something like that?
Ahmad was first.
Yeah. Oh, it was
Yeah, it
very close
wasn't far
together.
apart.
Yeah, it was very close together. It's kind of all
Yeah,
blurred.
where we had to wait for it. We had to wait for we didn't know what was going on with
Right.
Ahmad.
Yeah.
It's
So
just.
So they
so
have been close, but it took a while before we could find out any answers.
asking you guys, just please just
Of
check
course.
on me because I
Yeah.
might need you.
You know I will. You know I will.
All right,
It's
I'm done.
I get you on the organization. I say it often about the Native American community. It's crabs in a bucket, and the AIM movement was fine and good in the 70s, and it fell apart real fast because of the infighting, because no one could agree, because they just have different people, different nations have different agendas, and it really hasn't had much movement for 50 years, and it's we don't even get media coverage of things. You know, the amount of Native Americans who are murdered and killed, especially women, all the time on and off the reservation is astonishing, and we don't even, as we talked about with media coverage with the what I can't even think of her name now.
Yeah.
You know, we don't get that, and I think a lot of that is our fault in the sense of not being organized, not coming together, and we're not a monolith, and it's for me at least what I honed in on just on what you said, Darius, is just that different experience but understanding of just how what are we looking to achieve and how can we do it together, and the frustration of self, at least I have that of just feeling like it's constant crabs in a bucket and no one wants to actually do anything. And as far as Native Americans go, we're all so eager to sell our stereotype to make a quick buck, and I think that harms us. And you know, that's why a show like Reservation Dogs I find to be so good but also important, because it's the first time I'm seeing like something on a regular basis that isn't just selling a stereotype. It's actually delving into the nuances of the culture, and I hope that they tackle some of the more serious stuff that happens to our people. And that's completely off from BLM and everything like that, but just your word spoke to me, so that just kind of is where my
Reach
heart
out
went
to them.
with that.
Reach out to them if you can.
Who are the
I,
people
I
who make
have to.
that?
Yeah.
Oh God, I would love to. I would
Reach
love
out to them.
I would
Should.
say, as
Some
someone
research, shoot an
who,
email. You know.
as
should,
someone
I
who's
should.
multiracial, I think that's pretty awesome. I take anything I can to get like I guess my Vietnamese, blood, pumping and stuff. Cause I don't know shit. But
No.
if I were to ask the question, what do you think it would take? What do you think it would take? Like in a perfect world, what would it take for us to just be able to work together?
Me?
I would like to say the easiest word is communication, but
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And one thing that I will say that the 1%, the government, those in power, the super rich, they succeed because we are all so fucking divided. The 99% that encompasses everyone. And yes, there is a completely different way of oppressing the 99% that the white people in the 99% as opposed to the black people and Latin people and trans community and gay community and native community. Everyone is faces different challenges within that treatment of the 99%. But the majority of people
They
who
separate.
have rallied behind Trump are doing it because they feel like they've been screwed by the system and they can't make ends meet and they don't have anything. And then because this country has a horrific education system, education changes everything. When you understand what it is to communicate, when you understand true history, when you understand culture and history, you can communicate in a different way. There's a reason why people who have a better education tend to have a more diverse circle, as opposed to people who have less education, getting that mindset of my own,
closed-minded.
stick with my own, they're closed-minded. That could change everything, but we can't have that, because then we won't have the most powerful military in the world, because people won't need a Montgomery Dry bill. Then we could actually be dangerous. Government's supposed to be afraid of their people, not the other way around. If the people were an informed populace, an educated populace, a united populace,
government cuts you
and
off.
said, and said and we're like,
Back.
oh, you know what? The 99% is being oppressed financially, education-wise, healthcare-wise, all this shit. So you know what? Let's stop blaming each other. Let's stop having people say, well, I don't want to share my power. Or it's people saying, well, it's all this people. Or it's, oh, I'm such a victim. Or I this, that, and the other thing. All of which is usually manipulated by the press, by the politicians to divide and conquer. Then we could actually come together and create real change, because then they could not stop us. But as long as we fight amongst ourselves and people who are uneducated believe propaganda, ain't shit gonna fucking happen. It's just gonna get worse.
Who's going to start the new Rainbow Coalition?
That person will be killed.
Like Fred Hampton was, yeah. Mhm.
All the civil rights leaders get killed.
So was
All
Harvey
of them.
Milk. Yeah, he was killed.
Harvey Milk,
Shot
Martin
9
Luther
times.
King, even I can never remember his name. One of the
No.
the guy who was good friends, I think, with Harriet Tubman, who was like credited with like helping to create, and a white guy who was an abolitionist, all this stuff. Killed all these people. Killed. White, black, Latin, gay, you name it, Native American, killed, or political
Anyone who's
prisoners.
bringing about change gets killed because people don't want change.
The system doesn't want change.
Yeah, as much as people want to have better lives and everything, not everyone is ready for that change.
The powerful
Okay.
change.
So,
Okay.